Hello, I am Deanna, and this is Left to
And
Watch.
I'm Wendy. And today, Peter Coffin is with them, and their privilege has definitely been checked, hasn't
it? Let me give you your
I
corn,
checked it at
Wendy.
the door.
Just like grow a corn farm because you want to be so corny. Let me get you your tractor.
That was. Well, I'm sorry. This one over here made the joke in his video, so in their video. So sorry, in their video. So.
Any all fine.
Okay.
Really.
All right. Cool.
Any of them. The old pronouns.
I might go back and forth just by accident.
I'm perfectly fine
Okay.
with that. Like, a lot of people do that with me, and I'm fine with
All
it.
right. So, you had a video came out. I think it was a week ago. Correct?
Yes.
And it was about media representation, and I really liked it. I really did. I liked. See, the funny thing was, I was actually a big fan of Crazy Rich Asians, and now I feel bad. So.
Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with liking something. I mean, I like plenty of stuff that's certainly not, like, systemically good.
I feel like there's like, if you're talking about really anything other than an abstract concept, really, there's no way to like it with it being, like, completely ethical, because if it's a product, you know?
Yes, exactly. It's a commodity. It's a product of people's labor, and nobody gets the full value of their labor while working in capitalism. That's just how it works. Unless you own, the
I
means
think
of production,
your use
which most people don't.
Black Panther was a good addition to what you guys were talking about liking things. Like, because as me and the Black community, we know, like, systemically that Disney is pretty shitty towards Black people, but
well, yeah,
like, yeah, for a lot of the times,
thus
like,
far.
but just to see a Black superhero just there and just to be represented, it felt good for us, at least. Even though I know the story was kind of because Killmonger was actually right-ish, like, in that he wanted to dismantle the sort of imperialism that has been oppressing Black people when he himself was the person in the army imperializing other nations as well. But it's
that's the problem. Killmonger was a bit of a hypocrite.
It's the thought that counts.
Problem with him.
On Beyonce,
The muddier.
oh my God.
The muddier you make the waters, the better it is.
Oh yeah, also
for the
Beyonce
big
is also
companies.
another good example of the Black community and how we celebrate each other. Because a lot of white leftists love to point to Beyonce and say, hey, you know Beyonce's a capitalist, right? And we're like, yeah, we know. It's like, we know she's a capitalist, but I'm still gonna listen to her music.
Cool. Water's pretty wet too.
Yeah. I feel like to some extent in this system we're all capitalists because we can't help but be. Although Beyonce is very much like I guess it's super capitalist.
She's not even a super capitalist.
Extent, like,
it's her husband that's more of a super capitalist than she is, but he keeps.
That is true. And she at least actually paid tribute to the Black Panthers, which I was surprised that she did.
Hopping on her husband, quote unquote husband or whatever. He's like, because he's a businessman, and I forgot whatever his
No, he's a
I
businessman.
forgot the song that he did.
That's what he is.
It was the something of OJ, and the story of OJ, and he talked about how Black people should, if they want to get out of poverty, they should start owning a business. Even recently, he said that Black people should gentrify their own places. We're like, stop.
He also said that Jews own 90% of the property in America in that song.
That's always a good place to start for, equality.
Yeah.
Start with the Jews and the Jews being a problem, and then you just,
well, he
you
said
just
it
go
like
from
he's
there.
apparently said it to praise Jews. Like, he's like, you ever wonder what, because they're smart, basically. And it was like, no thank you.
But yeah, also with hopping back on to liking things like within the capitalistic system, I think Marx was also talking about, I'm trying to like tie this into sort of like religion, and how he talked about how religion was sort of like an opioid within, that's what I meant, like within the capitalistic system. Like it's not a cure, but it helps as an opioid. And coincidentally, like we're in an opioid crisis here too. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to point that out. I mean, it's such a convenient like metaphor nowadays. Like, because in theory, an opioid wouldn't technically be like an evil thing. It would be a thing that's there to sort of alleviate some sort of suffering. Whereas, you know, we're in an opioid crisis. It's perfectly emblematic of what Marx was saying with, you know, religion being opiate for the masses. If we're talking about what we have, we're a much more secular, I mean, we're not an entirely secular society, but we're a much more secular society now than ever before, I would say. And as that happens, we have more and more sort of secular things acting as religion. Like, you could say that even some YouTubers are kind of, in their own way, messianic. In like, if you look in the sort of health sphere or the wellness sphere, you can find these people who are sort of filling the role of a messianic figure, telling people how they should be living and how they could be making the right choices. And it's all aspirational nonsense, but I mean, it fills that void in some ways.
Like, yeah, it's interesting to see that, because I look at like the cult surrounding PewDiePie, for instance.
Oh yeah.
It is really a cult. I like, and that's not me. Like, I don't like PewDiePie, but like, I've gotten so much shit for not like talking about how I don't like PewDiePie on Tumblr, and like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And people like.
The fandom machine.
Yeah, fandom is definitely that. Like, and it's so funny because like I have a very I'm kind of a big name fan in one fandom, which is the Game of Thrones, The Song of Ice and Fire fandom. And I'm going to a convention, like I'm doing panels at a convention coming up in July and stuff like that. At the same time, I feel really guilty about it because I found out like that this for-profit convention has some like history or something. But like I was thinking about it and I was like, do I want to do for-profit? I mean, I've already agreed to do it, so I can't back out now. Like I can't. But like. Fandom itself, like I go to these conventions and it ends. I like right now, as I'm speaking to you guys, I am burning a candle that I bought at this convention, this other convention that I went to, and it's like, I mean, it's become like this whole fandom thing. Like you go there and you end up buying like drinking horns and stuff like that. It becomes it becomes just like a geekier version of a mall, basically.
Yeah, that's exactly. Okay, there's a free fandom thing nearby here. And we went over to it so that my kid could do a costume thing in the cosplay thing. He went as Wally last Halloween, and he wanted to go to this as Wally. So we did that. It was really adorable, and like you have all these like they're nice little things. You bring in your kid, you do this, everything's colorful and fun, but like literally everything is for sale. There's nothing that's not for sale.
$40.
Yeah, he bought this this little Mario question mark box that they made out of those iron beads, and it was like $18, and I was like, I could have done this in like 20 minutes.
Well, yeah, that's the funny thing was like I went to this other convention that is not a for-profit convention. Like the creators of the convention have day jobs and stuff like that. They and they don't really make a profit off of it. And even there, it was like it was a really good convention. Like I really like it, and I love the people who do it. But at the same time, like they it was not for profit for them, but it was for profit for a lot of vendors. And I'm not trying to shit on people for making money. Like these are people who are artists and like who wanted Yeah,
sure.
who just need, they get by. Like, some of them are my friends and everything. But it's really become, like, this whole hustle, like, this thing that even people trying to do just their passions have to shill in a way that I don't know if a lot of them are comfortable with. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, it's the system of incentives and consequences. One way or the other, you want to do something that you care about, there's some element of it that you have to sacrifice, because there has to be some value extracted from you at some point. Otherwise, you're not serving the system, or in a lot of cases, it's quote-unquote the community, whereas it's actually not. I would say that it's not necessarily a community. Like, the one that we went to was a benefit for... they do it every year. It's free, and there's a lot of vendors, and I'm sure that they probably make some money off of renting the stalls, and they may take some percentage of sale. I don't know exactly, but it's a benefit for a library in the area. But still, I mean, even though it is for a good cause in theory, you can really sense the sort of commercialization of all of these sort of natural passions that people have.
It's sad.
And
it's sad that...
No, go ahead.
To be passionate about something and to create, it has to be sort of kind of useful. In a way, like, even with me and my parents and a lot of other people my age and even younger, if we're, like, sitting around or drawing or reading, our parents just go over to us and, like, why aren't you doing anything useful or productive with whatever you're doing? And it sucks.
My dad said the same thing. My dad is wondering when I'm going to start being paid for this podcast. Like, and I'm like, we have like 40. We have 70 subscribers right now, Dad, and 2 patrons. I don't think we're gonna be making a ton of money right at the moment.
Well, even at, like, scale it up to what I'm doing a little bit. Like, if what I was doing wasn't considered useful to somebody, it would be some doofus, like, dressing up like the Matrix and, like, various things, talking about ranting for 20 to 40 minutes about something.
Well, at least you were talking about getting the red pill back and not the red pill black, so that's good.
Well, I wish... Okay, so I really wish that we would stop, like, letting them walk all over the red pill as though it's some sort of horrendously bad thing, because that movie is so leftist and anti-capitalist and anti-power structure. It's very, very horizontal in its power. Like, they really... I mean, it's not perfect, but they really want to sort of undo the same kind of coercive false consciousness that we all live in. It's sort of materialized as an actual physical thing in the Matrix.
All of those sort of like out of society movies, like Fight Club, kind of in that kind of way. It's like, oh, this movie talks about how sad I am. It's Fight Club. Or, oh, with BoJack Horseman, this horse talks about how sad he is. Oh, we have to relate it to Fight Club somehow. I think it's what they're trying to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
But we were talking about Fight Club last week with Kevin Logan, talking about how, the movie is actually a manifestation of somebody's psychosis. And how, like, we were talking about the manosphere and men's rights activists, and how they want to be Tyler Durden, not realizing that he's a psychosis. And I don't know if you've seen Maggie Mae Fish's video on Fight Club. It's so good.
Yes, Maggie Mae Fish is so good. And also, just to say, Kevin Logan he's done The Descent of the Manosphere for like years and years now. He's really paid attention to those people. If there's anybody who can talk about the Manosphere people, it's Kevin Logan. But on the same token, if you want to talk about the best Fight Club video, it's Maggie Mae Fish's.
Is this an ad?
At least in my opinion.
Is this an ad for Fight Club? Now are we endorsing people to go and watch it?
No. Like, she, well, Fight Club itself is actually very anti-capitalist. It's totally a satire of capitalism. And that's the weird thing, like, and that's what's so funny, but people completely miss the point with the movie. I love that movie so much. But I feel embarrassed to talk about people unless I know they're explicitly leftist, because people.
Yeah, it's like,
you know what I mean?
It's like when you
These
like
people
history,
totally miss the point.
and then the person that you're talking to talks a little bit too much about World War II, and then a little too much about Nazi Germany. It's kind of yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, sort of like how George.
They got a little bit too much Civil War memorabilia around.
Yeah. Did you see? You know, like one of my favorite actual like sort of explorations of media representation under late stage capitalism is actually the Boondocks.
Oh yes, I think the Boondocks is a very good, an interesting cartoon that I wish I had watched more of while it was on, because I have to go back to it and actually watch more.
Also,
like the stuff that I watched, it was super interesting.
It's also similar to Fight Club in that with how it portrayed to black men, and how it kind of made black men a little bit more hotep-y in that way, and that they wanted to dismantle white supremacy, but they didn't want to dismantle the homophobia and the anti-Semitism that goes into it in that kind of way. Like, it's a really, like, the first season, the first or second half of the season is a really good show, but then, like, after that, kind of, the original person left.
Well, the fourth season's dog shit. Yeah, Aaron Magruder.
Oh.
Aaron Magruder left, and then the fourth season was terrible.
But yeah, it has...
And they made the decision of, like, making the Freemans broke, which was such a stupid idea, because it completely removed them from the sphere of, like, analyzing the things that they could buy and the consumption, like, especially with Riley, and the mass consumption he was going through and stuff like that, and, like, just dissecting it and stuff like that, and the way they did that was just, like, it was the stupidest thing.
I only ever actually saw
all you pretty much
need
to watch, because, again, after that, it gets kind of and, like, even, like, I'm going back to, like, how men portray Fight Club, and back to, like, how black men portray the Boondocks. Like, again, I can't talk to, like, let's say, like, a black man that I talk to about Boondocks, and we'll be like, hey, this show is really cool, but then he starts talking about, on the side, about how, it's because the things, the way they are is because the women, you know, aren't being docile. Like, yeah, even the portrayal of women in Boondocks is kind of because there's barely any women in there.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like, at all. The girl is... Yes.
And then a lot of them turn out
to be crazy, and so that also did not help with the portrayal of black women in there either. I could even go to Atlanta with Donald Glover and how he portrays black women in interracial relationships. Like, in the interracial relationship with a black man and a white woman, he portrays it really, really well, versus the interracial relationship between a white man and a black woman, he portrays it very, very bad, and that the black...
Well, doesn't he have some stuff in his
yeah,
rap
he said
that's very anti-black
that
women?
Filipinos were like the black women of Asians, too, so yeah.
That's uncomfortable.
And
that's such a terrible comment. I've never heard that before.
He's open to saying I like Asian girls. That's a whole other thing with black men. But yeah, and you see, like, in one of his newest videos, he was you know, dancing and being with Rihanna. But for a lot of us, it's actually just he's faking being like that black man who loves black women. To us, and he's faking it in that sort of way. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the new thing to pander to too. Like, I mean, I hate to say that. I think that, you know, we did a whole video, a whole podcast on misogynoir and the history of it. So the part of me is that, like, yay, black women being celebrated, but at the same time, it's something that's being capitalized on. Like, for instance, like, I mean, Donald Glover, like, he has been nothing but kind of a shit to black women, and now it's like, oh, celebrate black women, okay, and now I'm capitalizing on that. And that's a problem.
Well, almost any human need, like the human need for attention, the human need for acknowledgement, anything can really be sort of commodified and resold if packaged correct. Well, I shouldn't say correctly, because that implies good. Packaged, I guess in a certain way, I suppose would be, maybe specifically, I don't know, but this is actually a lot of what I talk about and what I do is sort of talking about things that are not physical commodities being packaged as a commodity and resold, either literally as a transaction of currency or capital, or more abstractly as a transaction of, say, cultural or social capital.
And media is so good at that. That's the thing. That's almost what media is for.
It is. I think at this point that's the main purpose. It's basically to sell us the thing that makes us feel valid.
Did you guys hear about the new Burger King meals that are coming out? Get ready for depression meals.
Yes. Oh yeah. Yes. You're doing an adversaries on that, right?
Yes. We actually tried recording it once, and we're gonna record it again because we weren't happy with the result. But yeah, we're really on that specific thing. It's, I mean, I could say what I just said a second time about that.
Like,
it's oil on canvas, basically.
And I love that they used it, they used it almost militarily in a way, because it was obviously not only did they get to try to hop on the depression mental health train, but they also got to take a jab at McDonald's.
I know, which it's so great because it's dual purpose. You have sort of destigmatizing and stigmatizing both at the same time, which is, it's wild to think about. They're not everybody's happy all the time. McDonald's. Also, you're sad, right? Come here, buy our stuff. It's super it's super amazing how they're able to try to embody all of these. They're honestly, I think, at odds a bit. Because the purpose of buying this thing, I know that they said, is, in theory, because not everybody's happy. But the reason you would buy it is to feel a little bit better about the thing that you're not happy about. And at the very same time, you're better than the people who are happy over at McDonald's. At least you acknowledge what's real, right? It's kind of just it's this whirlwind
guys.
of nonsense.
I'm trying to find the different emotions on meals. So they have they do have a sort of, I guess, happy meal. They have an angry meal. They have a salty meal.
The Yas meal.
There's a whole list.
The Yas
meal. Which, talking about commodification of black culture or any other, hey, there you go.
But commodification.
Well, I'm half expecting them to take, after their pink tax bullshit,
Yeah, the pink tax and the bullying one that they did.
I half expect
it's literally, they're just trying to clear their way through social issues as quick as they can and get all of it into the
Burger King, if you really want to be so feminist, maybe you should be Burger Queen, okay? I'm half expecting them to pull that. For a limited time only, we're going to be, to celebrate National Women's History Month or something like that, we're going to be Burger Queen or something.
Well, they are gonna have the Impossible Burger there soon.
Oh yeah.
That sounds horrible.
Oh, I want to see Burger King in a fighting ring with ChickfilA. Since Burger King is being so progressive, they need to go and fight the homophobic chicken of ChickfilA.
Oh my god. Oh my god. That would be amazing.
There's the Yas meal, the DGAF meal, the salty meal, and the fuck Chick-fil-A meal. They just start selling fuck Chick-fil-A meals.
I feel that would sell a lot.
Burger King's really out here swinging pretty hard.
If they really want to fuck Chick-fil-A, they need to make better milkshakes.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I think that works. That works for me. I can second that. I mean,
fuck Chick-fil-A
ultimately
milkshake.
I can't, but
fuck Chick-fil-A milkshake.
And you can also see how McDonald's has changed too. I forgot that image at a seminar. They wanted a more progressive burger. I don't know what a progressive burger looks like, but I guess.
Have you seen that video Cracked did? and we can get into Cracked first. Like, I want to talk about some of the things I learned about Cracked recently. But you want to talk about, like, capitalist cruelty and evil. Like, look at what happened to Cracked. But they did...
Which is, I mean, in theory, a fairly progressive
yes,
outlet.
But what happened...
Published a lot of very kind of, I would even say, existential dread due to capitalism-oriented content.
Yes, but... So they did a thing where they were making fun of McDonald's. They were making fun of McDonald's new video.
Which one?
Like it's not new anymore, but it's like this old Cracked video where they made fun of a new McDonald's commercial that was trying to appeal to millennials.
Oh, that doesn't sound like a disaster
Yes,
at all.
it totally was. Okay, I'm gonna look, but anyways, so in the last couple of years, Cracked fans have probably noticed that there's really no more Cracked at all. And there's a reason why that is. And if you look into the reason why it is, I'm gonna try and find it right now. But Michael Swain, from Cracked, actually told the story, and if I could read it real quick, like, explain what happened to Cracked.com, it's pretty horrible. Like, okay, so here, Michael Swain here, posting from my Small Beans account. That's where I work now. Anyway, I really appreciate your effort and the research and care you took in putting this together, but I would love to add the insider's perspective that you probably couldn't possibly have had to shed even more light on the situation. The overwhelmingly primary factor in the layoffs and the decision to run Cracked as a ghost ship while it winds down was mainly made by Scripps. It was made before the buyout and with malice. You characterized Scripps as a foolish purchase, but in reality, they intentionally purchased a company on a downslope so that they wouldn't be sued for wrongful terminations when they laid everyone off and took the huge financial loss. Why would a giant media company want to buy into a financial loss? Because it is currently legal in the U.S. to purchase a company, liquidate it at a loss, lay everyone off, lose the credit the loss against the earnings of your 100 other media companies come tax season, and then pocket the money made by running a ghost ship company with no employees, and presumably use it to counter losses or pad the pockets of your boards and investors. That's what happened.
You gotta love that.
Yeah. And I feel...
I'm loving it.
That's some real, like... Yeah, exactly. I'm loving it. I'm gonna go get my DGAF
Yeah,
meal.
seriously. My Yas meal.
I am ultra salty. Give me the salty meal, actually.
Mm-hmm.
That's... I mean, I you can't... That's the... And the thing is... Okay, so look at Activision Blizzard a couple months ago. They had the highest profits they had ever posted. And they laid off... 800 of their staff. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, there's the logic of any capital decision is there's very little logic other than, can we make more money? Like, whether it's liquidating a intentionally failing company to that's such a horrible, like, I had never actually heard the full that. I'd heard little snippets of it from people, but that's amazing.
Yeah, well, that's like one of the things that I'm really, like, becoming so aware of. Like, I work in construction, basically, and I'm not a construction worker myself. I work writing proposals for contracts for construction, and I can tell you that sometimes it's competitive and sometimes it's not, and it's just a constant, like, you constantly have to be going after, like, I'm the only technical proposal writer at my company, and this is a company that's been making, like, a steady, like, increase, stuff like that, and it can get, but it's just, it can get very, very rushed and everything, so, right. I don't want to talk too much about my company, because that's not very professional, but let's just say that there's a lot of, interesting parallels, like with how much, like, a company chooses to spend, you know, or
Interesting.
But it's not a bad company. Like, the people there are really great.
Not a bad company.
Oh, well,
it's not a bad company.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think there's any company that is gonna be like, yeah, we wouldn't do everything possible to make more money. Like, that doesn't, there's, like, when we say good company, bad company, they're both gonna ultimately have that as, like, if, let's say a company has the best culture, quote-unquote, as can possibly be, treats their employees well, constantly gives raises. Underlyingly, there's something that has to be exploited, because somewhere, somehow, more money has to be posted as some kind of... There's no such thing as consistency in capitalism. If you're consistent, you're doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm. Well, that gave us the amazing Jim Sterling video. Would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Which one?
The one he made right after, right after he started out talking about BuzzFeed.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's a good one.
And when he talks about the system and why Activision, was it Activision and EA or Activision and Blizzard?
Activision Blizzard.
Okay, Activision and Blizzard. And he talked about, like, even though they'd made all these record profits, like, it still wasn't enough. And I remember telling my boyfriend, like, can you believe that they did that? And he's like, yes, because if you don't meet your... He's like, yeah, it makes perfect sense to me, because they didn't reach the projected goal.
Exactly. That's completely it. And it sucks, because that's, like, every single thing in the world at the moment is ultimately that. So, like, you talking about, to go back to Disney and representation, it's all, like, even though, like, I personally enjoy Black Panther. I think it's a fun movie. I don't necessarily love every aspect of the plot, but it's a fun movie, and I enjoy watching it. And I know that a lot of people feel a certain element of exposure in a positive way, that it's not there. Like, in my criticism of Black Panther, I made sure to mention, I understand that there's a lot of negative black representation in media. There's a lot of withholding of representation, for that matter. And this thing, it may not necessarily be evil, but it is ultimately part of a plan to make money. So, one way or the other, we always have to come back to that, and it sucks, because what that means is that no matter what the thing is, if the thing is good, if the commodity end product is good, it doesn't really even matter, because it can all be just eventually swept away.
Well, I thought and I thought that you really did show the flaws of the system in your video with the Tyler Perry thing.
Oh, don't get me started on Tyler Perry.
Tyler Perry fucking sucks. Can we?
Yeah, everybody I talk to is just like, yeah, Tyler Perry, fuck that guy.
Thank you.
Well,
and it's like, he doesn't even seem like a bad guy, and people seem to really hate him.
Thank you for Diary of Angry of a Mad Bucklam. Thank you for giving us Angela Bassett. Anything other than that?
And Taraji P. Henson.
Mad Black Women was cute. Everything else can go. We hate you. Stop with the transphobia.
Okay, my boyfriend met Tyler Perry, and guess what type of celebrity he is? He's the don't make eye contact with Mr. Perry type.
Oh, nice.
He's like RuPaul, I guess, in that way.
Wonderful.
Oh, is
wonderful.
RuPaul
That's
like
a big
that?
help.
Yes, like RuPaul does, like, forgets all of, like, the contestants and drag queens that, like, he hugs and talks to after the show. He's like, oh, no, don't talk to me, we're not on camera yet, or whatever, stuff like that. Yeah, this sounds like.
Probably my favorite Tyler Perry thing, and this is something that I watched, like, a bunch of times while I was writing that, because it just it sort of fueled my, like, you really have to point out how annoying this is. But the video where he says, I wanted to keep this a secret, but you know how social media works. I paid for the layaway at a Walmart, so if you had something in the layaway at Walmart, it's paid for now. You can go pick it up. And it's like, why did you say that? Like, okay, so you wanted to keep this secret. I can tell you for a fact that you could have. You could have very easily kept that a secret, but you didn't. You really wanted that credibility, that he's a good guy cred.
Well, it's sort of like Drake with his God.
He's a pedophile.
Yes.
It's just like Drake with his whole pedophilia ring.
Well, no, I was gonna say with his God's Plan video, but you guys just had.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna have to agree with you that it's more or less the same point.
I think that was done to distract from the fact that he is totally trying to date Millie Bobby Brown.
It was to distract from, hating of black women and having friends that are trafficking women as well.
He's just a garbage person overall, and I was very disappointed to learn that.
He doesn't really know what he wants to be in that way, and because again, like, he didn't grow up with his father who was black, and so he was surrounded a lot more by a more kind of upper class community with like his mom, and so again, like, he wasn't that much into the black community, and so he's trying on different hats, and because he's light skinned, a lot of other races kind of flock to him because of that, because of how he tries on different cultures as well, along with being black. So he tried to be like Latino, maybe now he's trying to be Arab or whatever. He's trying to be Caribbean, Jamaican. It's like, no, Drake, you're black and you're from Canada. You're pretty up there. You had an acting career. You're not somebody from the hood. You're just...
But Canadian television doesn't pay that much. That's what he said. He actually said that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, compared to being like a huge name, a huge brand, sure, yeah. I mean, relatively speaking, I'm sure that's true, but I don't know how many people would be too pissed off to get paid a TV salary.
But it's not a lot.
It's probably most people. It's probably like 99.9% of people. Probably, like, most of them. I don't think would be too pissed. I don't know.
Oh.
I'm exaggerating a bit, but
it just came to me. Back to on the topic of Disney. Did you guys know that Disney is looking for new actors to play a gay character for Marvel? Did you guys know that?
I was not aware of that.
You weren't aware of that.
Gay representation.
Yes, gay
guys.
rights. Like, even like also.
Just like with Beauty and the Beast.
Also in Infinity War 2, there was also a reveal of a character who was gay, but it was more of a... That was a J.K.
Rowling type reveal, though.
Yeah.
Wait, who was it? Because I saw Endgame. Who was the gay one?
We should do a spoiler alert. Should we do a spoiler alert? Or...
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
It was the Hulk. It was Bruce Banner.
Wait, no, but that doesn't make any sense because he was in love with Black Widow.
Like, yeah. Maybe it's because the actor, I forgot his name, but the actor...
Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, he played in a few gay movies, and so I guess maybe he wanted to do some representation with that in some way. Like, not gay movies, but like movies about living the life as a gay person, I should say. With that. Yeah.
I know they filmed a movie with a cis person playing a trans person, and that got everyone very mad at Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
That was another thing.
When was that? What was that?
A few years ago.
I want to say that, yeah, that was a couple years ago, I want to say.
I forgot what the name was. What else? Like, if they wanted to make a gay
that's such
character.
Bullshit.
I mean, yeah.
That is really J.K. Rowling. That is really... Because they already established that Bruce Banner
Just make
was
Captain
straight.
Marvel gay already. Just make her a lesbian.
Yeah, exactly. She was so obviously with Maria Lambeau. Like, that was so obviously a don't ask, don't tell situation.
Yeah.
Like, that was so funny. Don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it really read like that in the film.
It was very overt, I think.
But yeah, I'm afraid.
Like, it was, okay, like, one of the things, like, I think one of the problems with that movie was that there wasn't a heck of a lot of personality in the Captain Marvel character, and that was like the one bit of it.
The one bit of it.
I wish there could have been more.
But doesn't she get back down and get up again, and never gonna keep me down?
Secret deodorant.
No, I'm lying on the background. But
I'm sure Chumbawamba, who were an anarchist band.
Oh yeah. And all the 9 Inch Nails shirts.
Yes.
Yeah, Everybody in the 1990s was wearing a cut-off Nine Inch Nails shirt. I
Were
remember
they?
that.
I don't remember very well. I remember wearing a Spice Girls shirt.
I remember
when I-
0 Nine Inch Nails shirts that looked like her Nine Inch Nails shirt.
Oh my God.
Maybe after the year 2000, but not before.
Yeah, if Marvel's gaydar is extremely off for not making Captain Marvel a lesbian, I'm afraid of what they'll do with like an actual gay character in Marvel. And like you said,
for Moon Knight.
Yeah, and like you said, it goes into the commodification of representation.
Well, I know we're literally talking about how it would be great if there was more of that. They're like, it would be great, you say?
Yeah, well, like, remember Beauty and the Beast? The remake of Beauty and the Beast? And they promised, like, we're going to have the most openly gay... And I remember the Power Rangers movie, they did that, too. And here's the thing, I liked the Power Rangers movie a lot. Like, I wrote a whole post, like, ranting and defending it. But you want to talk about representation in media, like, they had, like, the black autistic nerd kid. They had, like, only one white member. They had a mixed race Pink Ranger. They had who's like kind of punky, and then you got a metalhead questioning girl and the Asian guy with the sick bomb. But I will say this: at least the Asian kid, they didn't make him out to be rich or nerdy, which was nice. I guess he didn't adhere to stereotypes. I guess, but it's still like. I know that that's done for a marketing purpose, but I still enjoyed it.
It sucks so much. It sucks because you're like, this is what I would like to see. And they're like, okay, that's what you would like to see. Here is that as a thing that makes us as much money as possible.
Thank you for my opioid capitalist overlords.
Yeah, exactly. For sure.
Yeah.
Like, there's definitely... Okay, so... It's amazing. Like, I see all these people talk about how the way the Marvel franchise has played out has been totally amazing. It's lightning in a bottle. It's just impossible that it could have happened in any other way, and that it could never happen again. And I want to say, like, you can say that about so many things, but if the material conditions didn't exist leading up to that, there's a good chance something else that's near identical would have happened. Like, I said this about PewDiePie. Like, PewDiePie, everybody's like, PewDiePie needs to step down and stop making videos, or they need to ban him from the platform, or so on and so forth. They don't understand that the algorithm, it exists specifically to find somebody who attracts a certain audience. And PewDiePie attracts a sort of casual audience, an audience that doesn't care a whole lot about politics, an audience that doesn't care a whole lot about decency, but also doesn't view itself as caring against decency or anything like that. Like, it's a very specific kind of mix of bland that I think probably there would have been somebody like PewDiePie if there wasn't PewDiePie. Or there would have been a couple of people that occupy, one has 20 million subscribers, the next has 30, and
Markiplier.
The conditions exist for that kind of person to be at the forefront of YouTube. It's that simple.
Yeah, I also really like the people who are like, we have to support him against T-Series because things are going to be taken over by corporations.
By the brown people. Not corporations, the brown people. Or they say
they specifically
the corporations with heavy scare quotes around it, meaning the brown people.
Yes, and I'm like, you do know that PewDiePie's pretty damn corporate. And then some people were like, yeah, he was dropped by those corporations. And I'm like, if you actually believe that, truly, you are the most naive motherfucker on the planet.
His dad is like a CEO or something, isn't he?
Yikes,
something like that.
If I recall correctly, is the CEO of some. I don't remember what country he's from, but there's a company.
Sweden.
Yeah, Sweden. It's some Swedish company. I don't remember what it's called. And I'm sure that he broke out on his own and managed all of this stuff. He's self-made and all. I'm sure that that's part of the narrative as well. Like, he didn't want to live on his father's wealth. And I'm sure that that stuff exists. But that doesn't change the fact that to use a popular parlance... a popular phrase, a small loan of $1 million isn't a small loan.
No.
I found this meme from like about maybe 2007, 2008. I think you've all seen this meme. It was like, don't be racist, be like PewDiePie. And the list is like, he is Swedish, he has an Italian girlfriend, he looks American, he lives in the UK, he talks like a black man, and he likes Mexican candy. How can he be racist?
I do feel like I did see that.
I am a little... I need to go, like, hide in my bed right now, hearing that. Just, oh my god.
I mean...
Because Swedish is a race.
Yeah, that's a race.
That's a good example of somebody, like, don't judge a book by its cover. That Swedish guy.
I mean, Wendy, if the black community can face him saying the N-word constantly, you can get out of your bed and face him saying that he's Swedish or whatever.
Like, seriously? And apparently, like, even he talked about this. It used to be that he was actually, like, he was talking about how the reason he left Sweden was because their, like, most racist party got a bunch of seats in the Swedish parliament. What the hell happened to you, man? Like...
He's always been like this. I mean, because again, the black community and the people around, we keep saying, he says the N-word. What do you expect?
And that's the thing. I'm so sick of people saying that was a heated gaming moment. Look, I was playing Persona 5.
Oh, yes.
I love that game.
Yes, it's a great game, but part of the problem is that there are save points, basically. Like, you can't just save whenever in the game.
Yeah.
You have to go to the safe rooms or certain areas, and sometimes that takes forever to get to a safe room or whatever.
A JRPG staple.
Yeah. And I lost a ton of progress. I lost like 2 hours of progress the other day playing that game. And I remember, going, mother, like, you know, like just being very upset about it, but like never would it pop in my head to use a racial slur.
Because you don't keep it in your vocabulary.
I don't think about it. I don't think, like, the only time I ever think about racial slurs is when somebody else uses one or the subject comes up. And then I'm like, oh god, that's in my head. Like, I don't like that in my... So, if you... let's say it was like a slip of the tongue or whatever, and he had blurted out, that means that word is, like, very prevalent in his head, and I don't understand why people don't get that.
It's because of how in that space the N-word has been kind of desensitized, because they see the N-word as like a taboo word. And again, I go back to, like, you know, those kids, those guys in middle school who like draw swastikas or other offensive things like in their notebooks and giggle at it because they just want to be seen as edgy and just get attention. That's generally what they do. And they don't take it seriously, and so a lot of that becomes desensitized within those spaces. But they don't realize that, like, in the real world, I dare them to like go around a circle of black people and blurt that out loud. Like, it's kind of similar of what's happening to Sargon, I guess, when he talks about rape, and that he can say it all he wants on the internet in those spaces because it's kind of desensitized in those spaces, but when he gets out there, he got a fish like hit at him.
It's amazing. I mean, I love
He didn't get hit by a codfish. I want him to be hit by a codfish. But yeah, and it's just so exhausting. You know what I mean? Like, just, you want it, like, I am pro representation. I think everybody's really pro representation. Except for, well, the shitlords that aren't and treat it as a personal offense and are claiming that Captain Marvel lost $100 million even though it didn't. Hilariously did not.
Well, I mean, Star Wars, The Last Jedi was an extreme failure.
Yeah, even though it made $1 bajillion.
Yeah.
And
it sucks to be, you know, defending a commodity here, but...
But a perfect example of what we're talking about with, like, unsustainability with success, Solo is a perfect example of that.
Oh, for sure.
It's that movie made, like, what, $400 million at the box office?
Yeah,
and it was a flop.
Anything else? anything else, that probably would be good, but it was a Star Wars film, so...
Or the DCEU.
Yeah.
The only one, like, Suicide Squad and Wonder Woman and Aquaman made money, but, like, people, like, Justice League, and basically anything involving their flagship characters, Batman and Superman, all those flopped. And, or underperformed, as they say, even though they made, like, $500 million, and that was a disappointment and a failure.
It's pretty wild. I mean, that's where we are, though. There's no such thing. They put so much money into it that even, I guess, like, let's say you put in $500 million into a budget and you made $510 million back. That's a profit of $10 million, and it would be looked at as totally unjustified work.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But yeah, so... Yeah, it's just so unsustainable, I feel like. And, like, I feel like it's not just unsustainable in terms of profit, but it's unsustainable for all of people. Like, we were talking earlier, just before we started recording, everybody, about how tired everybody is.
Yeah.
And, like, today I wanted to go see Detective Pikachu, and I ended up falling asleep and not being able to see Detective Pikachu because I didn't realize how tired I was from my work week. And I still have work to do this weekend. And Peter has children, and he makes videos pretty regularly. And
oh yeah.
Deanna has her 9 to 5, and everybody's just kind of exhausted. And I remember talking to a couple of my Uber drivers, and Uber drivers that I've talked to have made comments like this to me more than once when they're foreign. These are people from like Ghana or Armenia or a bunch of places, like a bunch of different places, right? And they're always say the same thing. They're like, well, in America, everybody's exhausted because I'm just constantly working just to survive. And I'm just so worn out and tired all the time. And everybody here is so worn out and tired all the time.
It doesn't matter if you're doing something you like either. Like you're having to do it on some terms that they're not what you would do it if you were sleeping 8 hours a night.
And to make it even darker, I'm just going into like American psyche in general, just to make it even darker. A lot of us, like in my generation, say that we hate our dads so much, and a lot of it is because they provide us like financially, but we don't really have the emotional bond with like our dad specifically, and our mom as well, because moms are also working as well, and so that even makes us even more depressed. And then because of that, when they get home, a lot of them, tend to be exhausted, going back to like having that emotional bond and security. We tend to grow up, very, very depressed and anxious as well, and we become very, very needy. But again, because we have to work as well, it's hard to form relationships with people with that. And a lot of people turn to, drugs as well.
It sucks. I mean, humans are not. I mean, I don't really love making arguments about like what we're designed to do or what we're supposed to do or biologically who we are, but humans have always had communities and have always had bonds with each other.
Mm-hmm. We're an interdependent social species.
Yes, exactly. And you can back that up. Like, this is probably, even though technically, like, the technology we're using to record this podcast is completely amazing, and we're connected over a distance that's, would have been impossible 100 years ago.
Yes.
That being the reality, we're somehow more atomized than we've ever been. We're away from each other. We're separated, and it's kind of an extraordinary thing to think about, just how connected we are, and yet how far apart, how much more far apart we are than ever before. Really.
Well, be careful, because you're starting to sound like Prince E. Do you know who that is?
No, I have no idea.
Okay, so actually, this is actually kind of an interesting note I want to bring up. I urge everybody to look up Nerd City Prince E. Prince E was this guy who was making these inspirational videos, and he does one about Mr. Zuckerberg. No offense, but you should reclassify what you made into an anti-social network. And isn't it amazing how these touch screens make us lose touch? And blah blah blah.
Yeah,
and,
I kind of sort of, I guess, understand what you mean in that, going back to being connected, but also like being far apart. Like, we're able to communicate with a lot of people in ways that we weren't able to. Yeah, like communication, we're able to do that, but we can't really have those deep conversations with people, if you know what I mean. In that sort of way.
We're not supposed to, anyway.
It's like we can speak to people on a surface level, I guess is what I mean. But when it comes to emotional things, because again, going back to like not having that emotional security because we're all working all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Emotional,
for sure,
it takes work. Like emotional, like security and being emotional with people takes work versus just talking on surface level.
Emotional labor.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. I'm sorry, Wendy.
No, it's fine. But like Prince E, but here's the thing about Prince E. He's a complete fraud and a psycho. So, he's, well, okay, I don't know if he's a psycho, but he's a complete fraud. And he basically makes what Nerd City pointed out is basically, inspiration porn, as he called it.
Yes. Yeah.
And he also talks about how the guy, you know, he capitalizes everything, like being so anti-social media, he sure does give instructions to his followers on how to best manipulate social media to spread his videos everywhere. Like, he literally told people to change their birthdays to the days when he's got a new video coming out, so that way, like, their Twitter voices are amplified when they recommend his videos on the day they come out.
Yeah, like commodifications of people's emotional needs and the need for like connecting. So yeah, that goes.
And then like, you know, creating this like fan base on YouTube, like this is, you create almost like your own unpaid internship with your followers. I feel like that's
absolutely,
yeah.
I've been referring to YouTube itself as video Uber lately as well. Because in its own way, it's basically the Uber of the entertainment industry. So if you think about it from that perspective, you're thinking of basically freelancers with fan bases. It's really weird if you think about it. So if you've got all of these people sort of hypnotized in this way, I would say hypnotized is maybe an exaggeratory word, but not an inappropriate word to say in a situation like what you're talking about here. He's putting out so many direct calls to action to ask them to do things that promote him specifically. We're ultimately, like, he may have a social capital with these people, the connections between these people. He certainly has some hold of an abstract capital there. But we're not talking about the actual capitalist here. We're talking about somebody who's a freelancer, who's basically an Uber driver in the entertainment industry. It's wild when you think about it, just how far removed from the actual power, not only the personalities that sort of drum up these cults of personality, but these cults of personality are so far removed. Like, I would even say back in, say, the 1950s, when you had all of the fans screaming in over various new musicians, Buddy Holly and so on and so forth, that they were much closer to the kind of actual thing that they were cheering for. They were like, I mean, I'm not saying that Buddy Holly was capital in that respect, but he was closer to capital, and his fans were closer to capital. Like, we keep getting abstracted further and further away.
Elvis was the ultimate of that in a variety of ways. Not only was he like the ultimate like screamo, ultimate like almost cult icon among rock, but he was also specifically designed to be that way because he was, quote, a white guy who can sound like a black guy.
Oh, there's tons of that.
You're not wrong.
We have Justin Timberlake for that now, and a lot of others.
Justin Bieber.
Justin, I guess, in his older years, like in his earlier years, he had a higher pitched voice. I'm getting technical about it.
All right, guys.
Let's turn this into a hard turn into Elvis.
Yes, sorry. But
the intricacies of Elvis's career and talent.
Yes. But I'm afraid, much like Elvis, we need to come to an end now. That was a horrible joke.
I'll do you worse. Much like Elvis, we all need to eat a sandwich and die on the toilet.
Yes. Because we are going over an hour, and Deanna, you need to go someplace in 20 minutes. So we gotta head out. But thank you so much for being with us, Peter.
Of course, it was a joy. Any time, just get a hold of me.
We will.
I enjoy. Thanks for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, thank you. We enjoy having fun with people. All right. So we will talk. We'll talk to you guys soon. Please support us on Patreon. Like, comment, and subscribe, and all that stuff. All the calls to action. Be our little unpaid interns. Thank you so much, guys. Good night.
Night.